this was an interesting post that was on the Freight Brokers Reddit thread that I thought would be an interesting topic for us to go through. But the title of it is Cooked, and it all comes around of just like stopping prospecting and basically situations of losing customers. So this one guy in particular says, lost my two biggest customers, one to a buyout by a large corp and another went out of business. Got a kid on the way. 85% of my income is gone. Should have kept prospecting, but didn't. So it's my fault. But dang, man, anyone been up against the wall and built back up quick, don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So, man, I think this is so interesting because like we used to talk about this all the time and live this on a daily basis, right? Of like, you just don't stop prospecting. And I mean, this is definitely one of those big differentiators between split model, cradle to grave, right? Because if
Yeah.
you cradle to grave, of course, like you typically will stop prospecting, and split model, it just never ends.
Yeah. I mean, we used to say it all the time. So many things change in logistics so fast. You could think you land this customer, you're working with this person for 3, 6, 9 months, and it's like the best thing ever. You're the only provider, you're taking all their loads, you're making a ton of money, whatever. And as soon as you get a little cocky, you stop prospecting. Like you stop reaching out. You think, this is my ticket. I'm good to go. I have this guy and a few other shippers, and that's all I need. And then just like that, 90% or whatever he said, 85% of your book is gone. And it's just about like, you want to have protection in those cases. You never know what tomorrow brings. And if all you did was prospect and keep a few leads warm to where something was probably going to close every month or every other month, you wouldn't have this problem. Or you could still lose a shipper. That's a big part of your book. That's always the case. But you wouldn't be feeling like this guy where he's in a really dire situation and he's going to be struggling to get desperate back on the outreach to bring on another shipper to replace that.
Yeah, I mean, it goes into the diversity of your book, right? Like if somebody is running 80 to 90% of your book, and I mean, in the second comment, there's a guy that got the most upvotes, maybe even more than the guy that posted it, but had a customer that did over 90% of his book, over 50K a month in profit on easy lanes. His contact had a great relationship with him. His contact retired. New guy comes in. He has a second service failure. The guy loses his shit on him, and then all of a sudden, like he loses his customer, and he says he goes from 5 figures a month in income to low 4 figures with a kid on the way. Or sorry, the first guy I think had the kid on the way. Like they all do. But man, like it does go back to like sales just doesn't stop. Like if you do get, especially with one customer, man, if one customer is doing 80% plus of your book, you're definitely putting yourself in a bad spot. I mean, we look at it from that way. Like if we lose one, it's really not that large of a deal because of how many now we have at this point, right? And you're always prospecting, you're always trying to figure out what people's situations are. It does make me think back to one of my scenarios when I first got in brokerage. Transitioning over from Tesla, and this is all new to me, but I was a manager for a team of 6 account executives and 6 account managers. And the account executives were solely focused on shipper sales. And my top AE at the time had landed this large reefer shipper that just did like all like frozen chicken, frozen beef for some really big restaurant chains that are out there. Awesome customer. Like the whole office was pretty hyped about this customer because of how they were coming on board and how much freight we were getting. And then there was this scenario where we're supposed to have a team driver, kind of this situation where we felt that we checked all the boxes. Turns out it wasn't. Late delivery caused a lot of issues, lost the customer. My AE was just like distraught, losing his shit, But one of the things that we talked about on a weekly, almost daily basis was the continuous prospecting. Closed another customer that was a plastic packaging company. Same thing, kind of similar space, just obviously not the food. So this is all drive-in freight, and they did some intermodal stuff. And turned out to even be a bigger, better customer than that one previously. And it was great because like for me as a manager, he preached to the whole team, like this is the importance of prospecting, because he was able to have another one. But be damn sure he kept prospecting no matter what, even landing that larger one, right? Because he just knew that those kinds of situations can happen, or the contact would leave. We would talk about those situations where the contact could leave, or even with the plastic packaging one, sometimes they would shift towards everything over the road, like dry vans, and then sometimes they would shift it to intermodal because intermodal was less expensive. But if they needed to be a little bit more time sensitive, get to some of these chains a little bit faster, and whatnot, then they would go over the road. So like that was definitely one of the experiences that I had with like this specific topic, because yeah, man, like you have nobody to blame at that point but yourself.
Yeah. And I think it's important to remember that shipper sales prospecting, especially at brokerage, is a very high pressure sale. You have to bring in shippers to eat. You have to bring in shippers to stay with a company. You have to bring in shippers to, pay for the rest of the team if you're in a split model brokerage. And so if you add more pressure to yourself by not prospecting and kind of resting on the book of business that you built, then that book goes away. Now, you have a kid on the way, whatever, you just got married, you just bought a house, whatever you did in life, and you're part of a brokerage that needs to turn a profit to stay afloat. There's going to be so much more pressure on you when you're trying to bring on a shipper to literally, get a paycheck, because you've put yourself in that situation. Like if you have momentum, you have confidence, you don't have pressure because your book is sustaining yourself, then that's the best time to make calls. That's the best time to prospect, because you really don't have that much pressure to bring them on. And they're going to feel that over the phone or over the email when you're not pushing them to get a first quote and land the shipper. You're just checking in. You're just sending them, hey, this is a project I did and I want to share it with you. I thought you would think it's interesting. I wanted to build this relationship with you. If something changes in the future, would love to move a load for you. Just you come off more calm and collected and much more confident because you have a book and you're not desperate. But as soon as that flips and things change and now you're desperate, it's like, man, you're really feeling the pressure every day.
Oh yeah, and they're gonna feel and smell the commission breath all day.
Yes.
Yeah, you can just you move and just your energy is a lot different when you don't need something. Some people would say that's the case like when it comes to dating. you know?
Right.
It's just kind of the truth. Like you just don't care as much. And it doesn't require that much to do those follow-ups. And some people have that rule where once you close a shipper or close a sale, like sometimes the best time to start prospecting is right then and there because your confidence is at a higher level.
Yes.
You've been there, you've done that, you've got those things. And I think also if you're operating too at the same time plus selling, you definitely want to be talking about those challenges and those things that you're able to overcome in the meantime, and like share those stories and tell those stories with your prospective shippers, the ones that you're not onboarded with. It doesn't take much time to be able to do that stuff, but yeah, if you're staying consistent with it, it can go a long way. And you always want to build that diversity because shoot, man, who knows? Even with these customers that these guys lost that they were prospecting, just like in the example that I was telling you about, the one sales rep I had, they may be prospecting somebody that actually is a better situation. Um, and I will say, like, for our last brokerage, there was always this one account that everybody was so excited to get onboarded because one of the guys had worked with this customer before. But come to find out, all the other customers that we had onboarded were much better opportunities because they were not that they were easier to operate, but they were just less intensive and higher margin. So where did everybody want to go with those versus what everybody knew is like, hey, this big opportunity, but come to find out these ones that they had prospected and onboarded were actually better. So sometimes there is better out there when you don't even really realize it compared to what you have. So that's hard to, I think, wrap your head around in the moment and in the present, but that is a reality.
Yeah, and I think you touch on that really well as far as you get wrapped up in the moment. You have a really great month, you have a record month, and you look at your paycheck and you're like, man, I'm set for life. You have to remember that everything changes, especially in logistics. Like nothing
All the
lasts
time.
in logistics. There's constantly things changing, not just from people retiring, people quitting, people leaving, new departments, new heads of departments, new priorities within a business, businesses closing, recessions, like international shipping,
Yep.
whatever. There's a million things and a million variables that are changing all the time. And the dynamic between you and that shipper is going to change through those times. And at some point, that relationship could come to an end with one email on a Tuesday morning. You have no idea. So I think just being like, okay, what I'm doing now is great. And I'm really happy that my book is where it's at. And I love the relationships I have with my shippers. But I need to keep something in the pipeline because nothing lasts forever. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. And if you can move forward and prospect with that mentality, then you can prospect with confidence because you have the book today, but you need to prospect as though you don't know if you're going to have the book tomorrow.
Yeah. And it doesn't take much time to dedicate to do that, what you're talking about, on a day in and day out basis. You know, some days you're going to have more time, some days you're going to have less time. But yeah, if you're overall trying to run, I think just the smoothest business that you can and allow yourself to sleep a little bit better at night, doing that's what I think is going to put you in the best position.
Yep, 100%.
Always be prospecting.
Mm-hmm.